All right, Secretary Llamas, thank you very much again for a fantastic discussion we had kanina as political strategists. No naman, mag-feeling tayo, international tayo. Geopolitical strategy. Obviously, hindi naman tayo nag-feeling kasi very invested tayong lahat dito sa issue na ito at itong issue ng West Philippine Sea. So, of course, good news today. I'm very glad things ended on a better note. So, nanalong Gilas Pilipinas kanina. Crazy coming from behind third quarter. Tambak na tambak tayo. But that's it. Nanalo tayo by 1 point again. So back-to-back 1 point. Talaga pinapa-heart attack tayo nitong Gilas. Pero super proud of Gilas Pilipinas. But before that good news, there was not so good news vis-a-vis, well, not China per se, but the situation in West Philippines. So kanina umaga nakita natin na may news na may mga kababayan tayo na nagbuwis buhay dahil sa isang insidente dyan sa West Philippine Sea. I think we have some updates now over the past 12 hours about the nature of the situation. Thankfully, this shows how responsible the Philippines is. We did not point fingers at anyone prematurely. We waited for proper investigation into it, and it looks like this is not another reed bank. No? So I was worried na baka ito na naman nangyari katulad ng 2019 na yung Gemver and Reed Bank and baka may China. Thankfully, wala. No? Thankfully, wala. Having said that, though, Secretary Llamas, you have your own say on this. You have your own take on this. My sense is, of course, we have to be responsible, not lay blame on China for everything wrong that happens there in the West Philippine Sea. At the same time, there is a certain degree of structural culpability, no, ng China, because if titignan mo yung ginagawa ng China dahil binubuo ating mga mangingisda, piniprevent sila from going to their traditional fishing ground, technically speaking, Scarborough Shoal, among others, per the arbitration award in 2016. They have to venture out more dun sa mas delikadong area. At alam natin yung mga bangka nila, yung kanilang trainings, at tapos meron ka bang hindi magandang panahon with climate change, you're essentially forcing Filipino fishermen, small-time fishermen, to venture into really, dark, risky waters. So in a way, of course, we're not gonna blame China for this particular incident, but the reality is Marco Jr. has another big problem. So kahapon, I talked about 2 ticking time bombs, based also my discussion with Justice Carpio. One ticking time bomb is Reed Bank. Kasi hindi pa natin na-develop while paubos na yung Malampaya. Second ticking time bomb is yung BRP Sierra Madre, giving into the elements na yan. Something has to be done. Pero the third ticking time bomb is, kung tuloy-tuloy itong pagbuli sa ating mga mangingista, unfortunately, these kinds of incidents can keep on happening, no? So Secretary Llamas, first of all, what is your understanding of the updates that are coming in and the incident that happened? Kasi ikaw nakakausap mo rin yung mga mangingista, and in our last episode last week, previous episode, pinag-usapan mo rin yung mga advocacies mo, yung mga adhikain mo dun sa with the communities on the ground. Pag-usapan natin yan, Secretary Llamas.
I agree with you, Richard, na whatever yung resulta ng investigation dito sa ramming, no, talagang may structural culpability yung China, no? At baka hindi natin minamaliit itong nangyari na aksidente, hindi natin minamaliit yung 3 na namatay at yung mga muntik mamatay. Pero mas marami kasi yung damage na ginagawa sa mga fisher folks natin, sa mga frontliners natin sa West Philippine Sea. Kung i-accumulate natin yung impact nito sa kanilang livelihood, yung impact nito sa kanilang kalusugan, no? Yung impact nito sa ating sariling kalikasan, no? Yan ay immeasurable. Kaya nga yung ibang mga senators natin ay gustong singilin ang China ng billions of dollars para dito sa accumulation ng mga negative effects nung ginagawa nila na pang-pressure, aggression, threats sa ating mga frontliners sa West Philippine Sea. So, I agree with you. Pero it was interesting dahil gusto kong tanungin si Senator Francis Tolentino. No? Ano yung batayan niya? Bakit niya sinabi na China was involved in this ramming? Meron ba siyang alam na hindi natin alam? No? Dahil yun yung unang lumabas eh. Naglabas kaagad siya na...
It's the former Ronald Llamas of Digong, right? He was the political...
Yes.
Be clear, right?
At hindi lang yun. Siya yung head ng Maritime Committee ng Senate, no? Yung bagong tayo na Maritime Committee on the West Philippine Sea or something, no? So hindi, it would just be a sidebar na it would be interesting na tanungin siya. Paano hindi na siya nagsalita later? Anong nangyari? Paano ngayon lumalabas na ito ay isang oil tanker na registered sa Marshall Islands na papunta ng Korea? I think tomorrow, no, magdadak. So lumalabas na yung mga information na wala kanina, no? Na wala kanina. So, yun.
Right. So just to be clear, we're not here trying to directly blame China because unfair naman, wala naman talagang ginawa in this case. But kasi nangyari nung sa Reedbank. Kasi remember, Ronald, nung nangyari last time was si Secretary Lorenzana, binuking niya yung insidente. He came up with a strong statement condemning yung suspected Chinese militia na bumangga sa Denver. And the next thing you know, paiba-iba na yung sinasabi ng mga tao doon sa Duterte administration. And the next thing you know, si Digong predictably said what the Chinese wanted him to say, right? Yung normal maritime incident or accident, that's exactly what the Chinese embassy and foreign minister were saying. So anyway, mahabang usapan yan. So now you have a situation by the Ronald Llamas of Digong himself right now seems to be sometimes ahead of the curve. Maybe much ahead of the curve. So just to be clear, I and Ronald, among other responsible people, I think we kudos to the Marcos administration for not making sensationalist nonsense out of this. But at the same time, as I said, hindi rin dapat natin makalimutan yung structural culpability of China of forcing our fishermen to venture into dangerous waters. Kaya it increases the probability of this kind of incidents. Kaya I don't know. So realistically, what do you think Marcos can do? Kasi my sense is, and I wrote this in a piece kahapon on Asia Times, which I think nagtatop ng chart.
Nabasa ko nga.
It was 9 p.m. lang kahapon. Next thing nagtatop na siya. So I was very surprised because the timing was not that good. But so obviously people are paying attention to this issue around the world. And actually, so Asia Times is a very China-Hong Kong-oriented publication. So I'm surprised that people are interested because the title is Philippines Takes the Fight to China, no? And what's happening with Marcos Jr. is that we're building cooperation, naval exercises, sama-sama, nangyari ngayon hanggang middle of this month. But seriously, mukhang tinitingnan din natin ngayon ang additional arbitration case. Secretary Llamas, as someone who was there in the Aquino administration when the arbitration proceedings started in 2013 and eventually was very successful. Are you happy or are you optimistic that we might see a 2.0 version of the arbitration building on your administration's legacy, the administration of Aquino? No? So hindi na ito 80% Aquino, 20% Digong, mukhang mag 200% Aquino na ito eh. Negative Digong na the ratings are going. What do you feel about this?
Well, we are confronting the biggest navy in the world. We are confronting the biggest armed forces in the world. So, ang ating strength ay international law. Ang ating strength ay the power of a victim, no? Ang ating strength ay it's more political. Sabi mo nga, bring the fight to China, no? Dahil medyo hindi tayo pwedeng defensive lang eh. At ang ating instruments are not military, are not even diplomacy has limits eh. Maganda yung patuloy tayo sa diplomacy pero against China malinaw yung limits niya, no? So it has to be political, no?
Leverage. Kung wala kang bargaining chip like Digong, 'di ba? He gave it all to China. I love you, you protect me, whatever.
Walang nangyari, no?
Na Duterte si Duterte.
Kaya itong ating itong mga pinag-aaralan ng Solicitor General, no? Alam ko kasama diyan si former Justice Hardalesa. Alam ko kasama diyan si Justice Hardalesa dahil dati rin siyang Solicitor General. So pinag-aaralan nila 'yan, no? Yung Senate ay meron ding proposal na nagkaroon ng consensus na i-elevate sa United Nations. So itong mga efforts na ito ay very significant at ito yung weapons of the week, no? Ito yung weapons of the week. Nag-i-invoke tayo nung kinakatakutan ng mga powerful countries like China. Dito sila takot eh. Paano in a way pwede itong maging political judo, 'di ba? Pwede itong maging political judo. Let us not hit them where they are strong. Let us hit them where they are weak. At this point, they are weak in international law, no? They are weak on the moral basis for their power, no? Doon natin pinupuruhan. Na balitaan ko nga nung isang araw nagkaroon ng press con sila Senator Risa Hontiveros. no? At saka mga fisher folks from Zambales, Palawan, Mindoro, at yung isa nilang pinopropose o pinaplano ay gumawa ng yata ng isang convoy, no? Tawag nila Christmas convoy going into Ayungin. Partly para ipakita na hindi nag-iisa yung BRP Sierra Madre at para ipaalam sa mga tao na it should be a rallying point. At saka partly para i-assert yung kanilang freedom, no? Para pumunta dito sa contested Ayungin shore na sinasabi ng China ay kanila, no? At part ng kanilang EEC. So it's parang looking from a distance, parang kwento parang political judo yung pinag-uusapan natin ngayon, no? Yung
Jiu-jitsu.
pag hinarang ng China, ang pangit ng itsura nila, no? Small fishermen na nakabihis yung mga bangka ng mga parol, ng Christmas tree, ng Belen, no? May dalang regalo sa BRP Sierra Madre, haharangin, no? Ang pangit ng itsura ng China, and it will further galvanize the Filipino people para hindi lang para maunawaan yung ating kalagayan sa West Philippine Sea, yung kalagayan ng ating mga frontliners, it will galvanize them to support our frontliners, no? At kung payagan naman nila na makalusot, makapunta sa BRP Sierra Madre, no? At ay magmumukha rin silang parang pinapayagan nila. So it will be dami if you do, dami if you don't. No? Magse-celebrate malamang itong convoy na ito ng early Christmas together with the Coast Guard and the troops in BRP Sierra Madre, no? Dahil may dala silang mga regalo, may dala silang mga pagkain, may dala silang mga fireworks, no? May dala silang the spirit of Christmas. So kung makakalusot sila, no, ay mapapahiya rin ng China. So ganyan yung essence ng article na sinulat mo. Bringing the fight to them, not in a military way and not simply in a diplomatic way, but in a political way. No? At the very least, it will galvanize the Filipino people. At the very least, no?
Unique thing about our talking shows, not like we read each other's works. You read my article before we come here, so this is really a brainstorming session. No? Kumbaga free war room communication strategy game. To, I mean, of course, you and I, Ronald, you and I, we believe in moral high ground. We believe in justice. We believe in rule of law. But you and I are not naive because we also understand that legal warfare can work in our difficult world because China needs respect and trust if it wants to be the regional leader. You cannot be a leader if people do not trust you. And you cannot be leader kung hanggang yan ka lang, di ba? Brawn alone cannot make you a leader. If you don't believe me, watch Godfather mafia movies. Usually the mafia boss is not the biggest guy. It's some old guy there in a corner, right? Or at best, Don Corleone looking guy. Start your pinaka-macho guy. Because it's about trust, confidence, fear, all of those things going together. And if kung fear lang, then you're just another goon, right? Well, guess what? America is even bigger brawn than China. Then dun na tayo sa US, diba? So China cannot win this game if tingin sa kanya is bully, the way the Philippines has made it easier for India, for Malaysia, for other countries. The other thing we have to keep in mind, of course, here is that since the arbitration award came out, thanks to your administration, the Aquino administration, Secretary Llamas, United States can invoke that arbitration award to justify its freedom of navigation operation, essentially sending big ships and saying in your face to China, fake yan, fake yung mga island na yan, wala yan, bearing sa international law, and we're just gonna pierce through it. Oh, malaki ka, mas malaki kami, di ba? So we gave legal justification. In fact, not only US, Australians, you have Europeans, Japanese, even Indians, not doing it America level in your face, but passing through the area. Freedom operations, right? Access operations and tawag dyan. So there is a value. And more than that, thanks to Aquino administration, the Vietnamese, even Taiwanese, the Malaysians, even Indonesians now na walang kinalaman directly sa South China Sea, ini-invoke yung arbitration award natin to push back against China's expansive, illegal, questionable claims all the way to Natuna Sea ng Indonesia, yung kanilang supposedly traditional fishing rights, yung mga ganyan ek-ek ng pinagsasabi nila. So thanks to us, right? Thanks to that arbitration award, we have that first level of bargaining chip. Now the question is how you build on that. And my sense is Justice Carvey perhaps is also being solicited for advice, hindi lang si Ardaleza. His idea was, nanalo na nga tayo sa arbitration kung saan sinabi na China did huge damage to our environment at binuli yung ating fishermen. Illegal po yan because Scarborough Shoal is a common fishing ground at the very least. Of course, they couldn't say to whom it belongs. That's not their mandate. But clearly, China cannot stop us from going there. And then, ang dami lang winasak na coral reefs dahil sa reclamation nila. So the idea of Justice Carpi is that, why not get that, take it to the court, and ask for reparation and damages. Tapos idagdag mo pa yung sinasabi nila Solicitor General Guevara na mga latest na nangyari sa Iroquois Reef, yung mga latest na nangyari ang pagbubuli sa atin, laser pointing, etc. Then if hindi pumayag ang China, confiscate mo yung kanilang state assets around in Canada, US, etc. So actually marami pa tayong option dito eh. Unfortunately, we have Digong na pang barangay geopolitics lang yung understanding niya, and he thought we're gonna be... Actually, the funny thing is, one is Digong, not us, because we were all the bargaining chip. He didn't understand the basics of geopolitics. You need the bargaining chip with China, otherwise you're not gonna get nothing, and that's exactly what happened. No real big ticket investments, things in the West Philippines and Reed Bank. So that's the funny thing. For 6 years, you and I, Ronald, a lot of us were being bashed as being naive, mga tuta ni ganito, tuta. In the end, not only were we proven right, super proven right tayo and vindicated tayo, but the question is, of course, what to do next. And this is where, Ronald, I'm going to come in siguro with the last part of this episode. For me kasi, ang laki din ng problema ni BBM dito. On one hand, he has certain leverage points, but on the other hand, he's facing a very complex matrix of negotiations, diba? Kasi kung kausap mo yung China, hindi lang naman yung sa Scarborough Shoal lang tinitignan eh. Hindi lang naman tinitignan sa Reed Bank kasi gusto nila joint development. Hindi lang nila tinitignan yung sa Second Thomas Shoal, tinitignan din nila yung EDCA, tinitignan nila yung malapit sa Taiwan. So my sense is there is a multi-level game that the Chinese are trying to play with the Philippines na bubulin tayo dito to get concessions there. And if you're BBM, kukuha ka ng help here to get leverage here. So it's a very complicated chess game, no? 3-level, 3-dimensional chess game.
Sabi mo nga, Richard, merong 3 significant flashpoints. Merong 3 important time bombs which may explode anytime, no? Yung isa, yung Reed Bank. Diyan kasi nagkikiskisan tayo sa exploration, no? Ang dami kasi, ang yaman nung natural gas, nung oil na allegedly nandyan, no? So kailangan yan ng China, kailangan din natin. So who will give, no? Sino ang mauuna at sino ang mag-i-impose ng kanilang will diyan sa area na yan? Ikalawa ay yung ayungin, dahil sineset ng China yung template para tanggalin yung thorn on their side, that rusty thorn on their side, no? Talagang gusto nilang tanggalin yan by invoking a Philippine president na nag-agree daw na tanggalin yan. At ikalawa, by saying na yan ang nagpupulot ng South China Sea, yung kalawang pinupulot, yan ang nagwawasak ng corals, no? So they're setting the template para yan ay tanggalin or wasakin, which may invoke the Mutual Defense Treaty because it's an active vessel, no? It's an active military Philippine Navy vessel. At ikatlo, itong nangyayari ngayon na patintero sa Scarborough, no? Yung naglagay sila ng harang, tapos ginupit natin, tapos nagbigay sila ng not so bail threat. Nagpapatawa yata kayo, no? Pinapatawa niyo yata ang inyong mga sarili, no? Pag inulit niyo yan, no, yari kayo. Ganun yung sinabi ng Foreign Ministry in so many words, no? So tatlo yan na hindi basta-basta, no? Hindi basta-basta yung mga ticking time bombs na yan, no? At kinakailangan ni Bongbong ng strength of will, no? As well as a foreign policy framework, no? Para i-confront yan. Naalala mo ba, Richard, nung panahon ni Digong, sabi niya ay together with Russia and China, we will participate in building a new world order. No? A new world order.
North Korea, Ronald. Pag ako yung North Korea, parang, besh, sino ka? Diba? Matagal ka
A new world order, no? Kaya kaya dapat paalala kay Digong yun. Yung statement niya yun, no? Na together with Russia and China, we will build a new world order. So where is that new world order now, no?
Yeah,
Kaya also as a side, yeah.
economy na paksak eh. Oo.
As a side note din, nabanggit mo kasi yung legal cases na pwede natin gawin, no? Nung UNCLOS, nakausap ko yung observer from Vietnam, no? Tapos sabi niya sa akin ay balak din nila mag-file ng case sa UNCLOS after natin mag-file. Nung na-meet ko sila later, no? Several years later, siningil ko sila. Sabi niyo magpa-file din kayo ng case laban sa China. Sabi nila, hindi na, nanalo na kayo eh. So gagamitin na lang namin yung pagkapanalo mo. Exactly yung sinabi mo. They're using our victory, no? Natawa lang ako nung nagiinuman na kami, siningil ko sila. Yabang-yabang nyo, sabi nyo, kayo yung susunod sa Pilipinas, di ba? Parang sa Rumble, sa high school, tinutulak mo yung nasa harapan mo, tapos pag napaaway na, wala ka pala. Di ba? Naparumble ka ba no high school? Ako madalas eh.
Marami nangyari sa akin. Mga magpakapagay ako eh. Medyo bully din ako ng bata ako eh. Medyo bully ako. Ako. Ronald, obviously this I think sets the tone for our last episode for today. Pag-usapan naman natin yung situation kasi speaking of taking time bomb, one of them is the Reed Bank situation which is related to Malampaya. And speaking of Malampaya, yung Malampaya issue with former President Arroyo. So I think suddenly this is again going back to, let's call it Haydarian thesis. Foreign policy geopolitics is affecting domestic political realignment. So pag-usapan natin na yan in our next episode. Maraming salamat, Secretary Llamas.
Salamat din.